Yeah, I'm sorry to break in with all the lovely and wonderful conversation going on. There's a great buzz in the room, and certainly on behalf of CGRER and Jerry Schnoor and myself, we want to welcome you to this reception, which is put together to celebrate a collective activity that I think has been pretty special in terms of the creation of CGRER and the 25-year of history that we've had. It's great to see so many people. We have founding members in the audience. We have lots of current members from both on campus and off campus. We have advisory board members, and we have wonderful staff that are with us. And so I just want to begin with some recognition. So as I mentioned, we've been here for 25 years. Let me start with the staff. And first, Jane Frank, who has, Jane. She was with us since before CGRER was formally started, and she just recently retired, and that's greatly reserved, but she's here, and she's always a part of CGRER, so thank you, Jane. Jeremy Moen has been with us 16 years. And he's in charge of our computer support activity, and he's a great asset to us and to the campus. And Joe Bolcom, everybody knows Joe. Joe's been great. He's been our outreach director for 5 years. Yeah, and doing a great job, and very much. And our newest program coordinator, Amy Parker, back there. And I think in addition to the wonderful science and education that our students and our faculty have been doing for these years, I think one of our notable activities has been we produce, everybody has to produce annual reports and newsletters, but ours, I think, have been outstandingly of high quality. It's not just news, it's really telling, it's journalism in the highest sense, and we're wonderfully blessed in this town to have talented people, and CGRER is blessed to have the best of the best. So I think Connie Mutel is back there. She's done it for years and years and years. Acclaimed science writer, but certainly has a new book coming out, right? So, but has done just a wonderful job. And taking over for her, Lori Erickson has taken over, and we haven't missed a beat. So Lori back there, yeah. Certainly the design of the CGRER reports, I think, again, are of highest quality, and Mary Mo Riley has been outstanding. I don't know if she's here. And also we've had wonderful, from the beginning, we've had, Jerry and I have connections to the arts, and we've always wanted to have great artwork and original artwork, and from the beginning we've had wonderful illustrations by Claudia McGeehee, and she's done another original piece of art for the 25th celebration, and you'll see these as you leave, and if you're interested later, she'll be able to sign them for you as well. It's at a later date. So, and so in addition, something that we've done, and actually driven from our advisory board, who we have in the audience, I'll introduce in a minute, gave us a recommendation that we really need to be getting the word out about what CGRER is doing, and we took that to heart and we reflected on it. What we decided to do about 4 or 5 years ago is to hire journalism undergraduate and MBA and master's students, and to embed them into the CGRER and let them, with some guidance, do their own thing, and that's led to some wonderful activities, and we're very happy that we've gone through 3 phases of having these interns, and certainly we have with us Nick Fetty. Where's Nick? Right in front of us here. Yep. And Casey McGinnis. Where's Casey? Casey back there. So they work with us, but they're writing original content, they're blogging, they're helping Jerry do the radio show. They're doing all sorts of of independent scholarly activity, and I think it's a really, really great activity. And finally, in terms of the introductions, we have our advisory board, some of our advisory board members here, and we're very happy for that. We'll start with Senator Bob Dvorsky. Bob has been with us since the beginning and just a great supporter of the center, and we appreciate everything the advisory board does. David Osterberg, we're going to hear from him, but there's David. He's also been there since the beginning. David's going to speak in just a couple minutes to give you how we came to be officially in the state, and it's, I think, certainly we appreciate his activities. We also have Tim Harden from Alliant Energy. There's Tim. There he is. He's on our advisory board. And Jesse Leckband, our newest member from Mid-America. There's Jesse. Okay. So that later we're going to have just a short program, and then we can continue to get to know each other a little bit better. I wanted to take just a few minutes here. We have a 25-year anniversary, and I think I want to emphasize that we are a very unique center. We don't have at this university, we do not have a program of atmospheric science where a normal climate center would reside out of. So in the mid-1980s, when climate change was becoming a very important topic, several of us on campus with different disciplines, from microbiology to anthropology, for example, engineering, were interested in the topic but wanted to speak with other people. And so we called a small meeting, we start talking, and we have a wonderful history at this university through our Vice Presidents for Research office that has just been super nurturing of interdisciplinary research. And at that time it was D.C. Spritztersbach, and at that point in time, he was holding pretty routine retreats of deans and senior management vice presidents out at Oakdale, where he would get faculty to come and speak about emerging issues. And we gave one of those talks. He gave us a little bit of seed money to do some brown bag seminars, a little glue to keep us together, and that really laid the seed for CGRER and where we are today. And again, it's that Office for Vice President for Research that has really nurtured us. And with that, I want to introduce the current Vice President for Research, Dan Reed, who we report officially to Dan's office. And he and his wonderful staff has been very good to CGRER. So Dan?
Well, I think report may be a bit of a misnomer here in that CGRER does all kinds of wonderful things. But as Greg said, you know, I think one of the really powerful attributes of CGRER is that it exemplifies multidisciplinary, and in fact, one of the buzzwords of the day was a cover of Nature magazine a few weeks ago about transdisciplinarity. And if you think about the history of what became science and natural philosophy, it really was about, and early on, a grand unification. And that was true of the connection between the social aspects, which inform human behavior, which are big parts of our conversation about climate change. And that's one of the great strengths, I think, of an organization like CGRER, is it has this broad cross-section of intellectual activity driven by diverse and disparate disciplines across campus. Having said that, we have great climate change challenges. I was reflecting on the distance from the Clean Water and Clean Air Acts in the US in the early 1970s to the delta in time to the founding of CGRER and a roughly comparable delta in time to now. And we have made enormous technical strides in understanding, you know, the whole sets of issues about human interactions with environment, but we still have some really pressing issues brought about in large part by human activities. When I was at Microsoft, I spent an enormous amount of time traveling in India and Asia and seeing the economic activity of 2 billion people attempting to live an energy-intensive Western lifestyle, and what pressure that is putting on the environment with the burning of high sulfur coal, and what that means for air pollution, water pollution, other issues, and the climate effects of that are very real. But we have made enormous cultural progress. We still have ways to go. I was reflecting on something else that I remember sadly from my teenage years, watching the old Tonight Show with Johnny Carson and him regularly making jokes about smog in Los Angeles and saying, don't trust any air you can't see. You know, our cultural awareness of the fragile world in which we live is much higher than it has ever been. We haven't yet gained the will to act as forcefully, perhaps, as we should to address these deep issues that have profound effects for all of us. But CGRER, as I said, is an exemplar of that cross-cultural activity that brings together both people in the sciences and engineering, but also people in the human side that can speak to not only how we collect and understand the science, but how we galvanize society to act. And that, to me, is one of its truly great strengths and why it is so important internationally, nationally, and equally importantly to the state of Iowa for what it does here. So I want to congratulate all the participants, Jerry, Greg, all of you who've been part of this for the last 25 years. And I look forward to an amazing 25 years more. There's a lot of work to do, a lot of work and progress has been done, but there's much ahead of us. And so congratulations and thanks. And I'll invite David to explain how we got here.
In the late 1980s and up to about 1990, it was true that we in the state legislature could do a lot for the environment. And we did that several times, passing fairly major bills that then got attention not just in the state, but in the region, because we did some fairly clever things with it. And when we mainly worked on Iowa's environment, but at one time we were able to stretch that into the global environment. And we did that in a major bill that we passed in 1990. We passed one in 1987 on groundwater protection, and then did the energy efficiency bill in 1990. And one thing we were good at is we sort of realized that maybe the support for the environment might not always be so robust as it was back when we were able to make legislation. We decided to set up centers at the various Regents universities. So at UNI, there's a waste reduction center. There's a Leopold Center at ISU. Cheek is here at the University of Iowa. That was a groundwater protection law. And then we started on a new one. And when we would do a bill like that, it would not just be one or two people, it would be a coalition. And Bob Dvorsky and I worked on this bill for energy efficiency and also renewable energy. We had a very big section on that. And what we were able to do is put a very tiny fee on utility bills. And we're very happy that utilities are here in the audience to recognize that, because that's where the fee comes from. And then dedicate that fee, first of all, to an energy center at Iowa State that we actually had something to do with creating. And then with some kind of a center at the University of Iowa on climate change. And I think that's probably what it said, some kind of a center. And so we were not involved in creating this in the least. We were involved in creating the funding. But while we were passing this legislation, I remember I met once with Jerry, and so I had some idea about what was going on here and what was going on there, but the two lines were very separate until we found some amount of money. And so the group of us then was Bob. Bob was then a state representative, not a senator, and Ralph Rosenberg, Paul Johnson, who did nearly everything on the environment, and Don Schultz, I think, and me. And we were the ones that put this thing together. And again, that very tiny fee that we said ought to go to something on climate in the University of Iowa was what we were able to do. And then I could go on and say, and they've sure done a good job with it, except let me go one step beyond that, because we set some kind of a climate change center. They created CGRER, and in those initials is, besides global, is the word regional. And in fact, in a way, they were better than us, because I was a state legislator. I cared more about my district than I did about most other places in the state. And I cared more about my state than I did about the Midwest, say. And I never cared about California or any place like that. Legislators think that way. So to create a Center for Climate Change and regional environmental work was really going one step beyond where we had, even though we thought we understood things pretty well. In many ways, you guys understood it better. And then when you decided that you wanted to tell your story to many people, and then hired my friend, Joe Bolcom, another state senator, and let me not forget that there is yet another state senator in the audience, and that is Rob Hogue. And the reason I'm not praising him is because he wasn't even in the legislature yet. Had he been there, he would have been working with us, I'm sure, but he wasn't there. So I think that when you do something like calling your center regional and global, and when you do something like hiring Joe Bolcom and TJ and also Nick, who I know pretty well, to actually talk about what you do here in this center and how much of it really makes this state a whole lot better. You guys were really good, and maybe as a legislator, I would say you were damn good. And let me finish with what I have to say, because I've been handed this certificate of recognition. This is one place where maybe Senator Hogue can take some credit, because it's at the request of the senators, I probably should say, from Johnson County, Dvorsky and just him. I guess Joe didn't do it. The Senate hereby recognizes and honors the Center for Global and Regional Environmental Research. They celebrate their 25th anniversary, and I think that's a pretty good thing to end with. Thank you. And now I get to introduce another friend of mine, Jerry Schnoor.
Thanks, David. Well, there you have it. We stand on the shoulders of giants. Certainly CGRER wouldn't exist without the good auspices of the state legislature and all that they did to create the Iowa Energy Act in 1990, and which funded CGRER. It couldn't possibly exist without all of you. And that's the people who started the center, many of you from the beginning. As Greg Carmichael said, it's really a grassroots organization of researchers, interdisciplinary researchers, which was the foundation from the beginning. And I guess the thing that maybe I'm proudest of is we now comprise maybe 25 departments and 5 colleges, and we issue an Iowa climate statement each year, which tries to put in no uncertain terms exactly what we know and maybe a little bit what we're not so sure of, and divulge that too. So it's this interdisciplinary nature which I would offer also kind of makes us unique, and that's all of you. The last climate statement that we offered, asking us to challenge the candidates who are running for office in this election year, was signed by 188 scientists and educators from 39 colleges and universities all throughout the state of Iowa. That, I think, is something that we can take some pride in. And that really is all of you. So to finish off, maybe we could just have a toast to CGRER and another 25 years and the participation of all the disciplines represented here. To you.